The autumn air in Edinburgh was sharp enough to bite, but inside the sprawling glass-walled conservatory of our rented estate in the Scottish Highlands, the atmosphere was suffocating. It was Thanksgiving, an American tradition my daughter, Sarah, insisted on importing into our European lives because she liked the aesthetic of it on her social media. The room smelled of roasted heritage turkey and spiced cranberry glaze, a feast I had entirely funded and spent 2 full days prepping. I sat at the far corner of the mahogany table, nursing a glass of sparkling water, my lower back throbbing from hours over a commercial-grade stove. Across from me sat Vivienne, Sarah's aristocratic mother-in-law, swirling a glass of 2015 Bordeaux, laughing loudly at her own jokes. Having contributed nothing to the weekend, except a designer handbag and a haughty attitude. Sarah, a polished 32-year-old marketing executive who lived well beyond her actual means, stood up to clear a round of starter plates. I remained seated, massaging the tension out of my neck. "Evelyn, grab the gravy boat and start loading the dishwasher," Sarah commanded, her eyes fixed on her phone screen. "Vivienne hasn't lifted a finger all day. She's a guest of honor." "You can at least clear the path." Vivienne gave a theatrical gasp, pressing manicured fingers to her cashmere collar. "Oh, darling, don't strain the help," she purred, though there was nothing soft about her smirk. Sarah dropped a stack of ceramic plates onto the counter with a deliberate, echoing crash. She turned to face me, her expression hardening into a mask of pure, unadulterated annoyance. "My mother-in-law is a distinguished guest," Sarah snapped, her voice carrying an edge that instantly silenced the dining room. "Your job in this family is to work so the rest of us can enjoy our lives. That is the dynamic, mother. If you have a problem with that arrangement, the door is right behind you." She pointed a rigid finger toward the grand oak entryway. She expected me to shrink. She gambled on the assumption that a 64-year-old widow, desperate for the illusion of a close-knit family, would swallow her pride and take the humiliation in stride. I did not cry. I did not raise my voice or launch into a dramatic, tearful defense. Instead, I picked up my crisp linen napkin, dabbed the corners of my mouth, and folded it neatly beside my plate. "Fine," I said, my voice cutting through the silence like a scalpel. "I will leave, and you can start paying your own bills." Simple as that. I stood up, slid my wool coat off the mahogany chair, and walked out into the freezing Scottish night, leaving my daughter staring in stunned disbelief at the heavy oak door as it clicked shut behind me. The drive back to my townhouse in Edinburgh's historic new town was quiet. The cobblestone streets gleamed under the amber glow of Victorian street lamps. I am Evelyn Tales, a retired university administrator. Since my husband passed away 6 years ago, my entire existence had been slowly, systematically hijacked by Sarah's lifestyle inflation. Sarah and her husband, Tom, lived in a gorgeous Victorian terrace in the affluent neighborhood of Stockbridge. They projected the image of a thriving, effortlessly wealthy young family. The reality. It was a fragile, carefully orchestrated illusion funded entirely by my pension and retirement savings. I paid the monthly lease on Sarah's sleek Audi Q5. I covered the exorbitant tuition for the twins' private nursery school. I was an authorized user on her primary grocery and luxury delivery app, meaning every organic avocado, artisanal cheese, and bottle of champagne she ordered was quietly siphoned from my personal checking account. I was the invisible ledger keeping her world afloat, while Vivienne was treated like British royalty. I unlocked my front door, stepped into my quiet, impeccably organized hallway, and turned on the reading lamp. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt a sudden, electric wave of profound clarity. You cannot reason with entitlement, but you can certainly stop funding it. I opened my laptop on the marble kitchen island. The screen cast a cool blue glow in the dark room. With a series of deliberate, ice-cold clicks, I removed my debit card from her grocery app. I logged into the nursery portal and canceled the automatic monthly wire transfer. Finally, I opened my credit card security settings and permanently deactivated the authorized user card I had given Sarah for emergencies. For years, I believed that bleeding myself dry was my duty as a mother. I had traded my financial security and personal peace for conditional affection. I snapped the laptop shut. The financial umbilical cord was officially severed. The morning after Thanksgiving is traditionally a day of aggressive retail therapy. For Sarah, it was a sacred ritual. She loved browsing the high-end designer boutiques on George Street, buying winter coats for the kids and unnecessary decor for her home. At 10:30 a.m., my cell phone vibrated on the kitchen counter. I was sitting at my small dining table, sipping a cup of dark roast coffee and enjoying the absolute silence. The caller ID flashed Sarah's name. I let it ring twice before sliding the answer button. "Evelyn, what is going on with the credit card?" Sarah demanded. There was no greeting, no apology for the night before, just raw panic and irritation. "I am at the register at Harvey Nichols, and the terminal keeps declining it." "Did your bank freeze your account again?" "No, the account is perfectly fine," I replied, taking a slow, measured sip of my coffee. "I canceled your card last night." The line went dead silent for 3 full seconds. "What do you mean you canceled it?" she hissed, keeping her voice low to avoid a scene in front of the boutique staff. "I have a 1,200-pound cashmere coat sitting on the counter." "Turn it back on right now." "You told me my purpose was to serve, and if I didn't like it, I could leave," I reminded her, my tone completely devoid of anger. I left. "Serving you included funding your shopping sprees. Use your own debit card." "Mother, stop being petty." "Vivienne is standing right next to me." "Then Vivienne can buy the coat," I said, and ended the call. I didn't block her number, but I switched my phone to silent and tossed it into a desk drawer. I spent the rest of the morning repotting my indoor orchids. It was the most peaceful Friday I had experienced in a decade. By Sunday morning, I realized that cutting digital financial cords was only half the battle. I needed to secure my physical perimeter. Sarah had a spare key on her ring. She frequently let herself in while I was out, raided my pantry, used my high-end laundry machines, and left her shedding dog in my courtyard without asking. I didn't call a locksmith. I drove to the local hardware store, purchased 2 heavy-duty digital deadbolts, and spent an hour swapping out the old brass locks on my front and back doors. At 2:00 p.m., I was reading a thriller on the sofa when I heard the familiar jingle of keys on my front porch. A metal key slid into the lock. It jammed. It refused to turn. A sharp, aggravated knock rattled against the wood. I stood up, walked to the door, and pulled it open. Sarah stood on the porch holding a massive laundry basket full of Tom's work shirts. "Did you change the locks?" she asked, her eyes wide with genuine disbelief. "I did," I answered, blocking the doorway with my posture. "I need to run these shirts through your steam dryer." "Our washer is acting up," she said, trying to push past me. I held my ground. "There is a professional laundry service on St. Stephen Street. My house is no longer a public utility." "Have a good afternoon." I closed the door until it clicked, leaving her standing on the porch with a basket of dirty laundry. Sarah was not someone who accepted boundaries without a war. By Monday morning, the reality of her canceled nursery payments hit home. The facility required payment on the 1st of the month, and without my automatic transfer, they refused to admit the twins. At 7:45 a.m., I was drinking tea by the window when Sarah's Audi aggressively pulled into my driveway. She didn't bother to knock. She opened the back doors, pushed the twins out onto my path, handed them their backpacks, and shouted through the rolled-down window, "Go to Grandma's." "Mommy has to work." She threw the car into reverse and sped down the street, assuming I would have no choice but to absorb her childcare emergency. The twins stood on the driveway looking confused. I stepped outside, smiling warmly so they wouldn't absorb the tension. I ushered them inside and made them pancakes. I didn't panic. I didn't call Sarah to argue. Instead, I checked the time. Vivienne was staying at a luxury 5-star hotel near Charlotte Square, resting before her flight back to London later that afternoon. I helped the twins put their jackets back on, bundled them into my car, and drove straight into the city center. I walked into the Grand Hotel lobby, rode the elevator to the penthouse level, and knocked firmly on Vivienne's door. Vivienne answered in a silk bathrobe, holding a cup of room service espresso. Evelyn, what on earth are you doing here? She blinked, startled. Sarah had a sudden emergency and needs you to watch the kids today, I said gently, guiding the bewildered twins past her into the luxury suite. You are the guest of honor, after all. Have a wonderful day. Before Vivienne could formulate a single objection, I pulled the door shut, locking it from the outside, and walked back to my car feeling lighter with every step. I didn't hear from Sarah until 1:15 p.m. I was at the upscale grocery store on Stockbridge Market, carefully inspecting a display of fresh produce, enjoying the fact that my cart only contained items I actually wanted. My phone buzzed. I saw Sarah's name and let it ring 3 times before sliding the answer button. Are you completely insane? Sarah screamed into the receiver. The background noise sounded like a frantic office corridor. Vivienne just called me in absolute hysterics. The twins colored on the hotel's custom wallpaper with a permanent marker. And she doesn't know how to order them lunch because they refuse to eat the 50-pound room service salmon she bought. I imagine that is very stressful for her, I replied smoothly. Moving toward the bakery aisle. Toddlers usually prefer chicken nuggets over poached salmon. Mom, this isn't a joke. She is 65 years old, she has a bad knee, and she cannot chase 2 hyperactive 3-year-olds around a luxury suite. Sarah's voice climbed an octave, laced with pure panic. I have a massive regional director presentation in 20 minutes. I cannot leave the office. It will ruin my career. I am 64, I pointed out evenly, and I chased them for 3 years through parks your house. And grocery stores, so you could enjoy bottomless brunch with your friends. You abandoned your own children with a woman who is practically a stranger to them. Go get them, please. I will pay you back for the nursery next month. Just go get them right now. No, I said simply. You established the new rules on Thanksgiving. I am merely following them. Good luck with your presentation, Sarah. I ended the call and slipped the phone back into my purse. I later learned from my son David, who lived in London and stayed entirely out of the drama, that Sarah had to fake a sudden medical emergency, abandon her corporate meeting, and sprint downtown to retrieve her children from a deeply offended Vivienne. Vivienne packed her designer luggage, ordered a private car to the airport 6 hours early, and vowed never to visit again. The vehicle Sarah drove, a sleek dark gray Audi Q5, was registered entirely in my name. I had purchased it 3 years ago, paying cash from my savings after Sarah called me crying that her old sedan had broken down on the motorway and wasn't safe for my grandchildren. I paid the insurance premiums and simply handed her the keys. She treated the 40,000-pound vehicle like a public rubbish bin, leaving fast food wrappers in the back and scraping the alloy rims against curbs. By Wednesday evening, I decided I was done subsidizing her daily commute. My own compact car was getting older, and I wanted my asset back. I waited until 9:30 p.m. Knowing the twins would be asleep and Sarah and Tom would be glued to the television, I ordered a rideshare to their street. The Audi sat in their driveway, parked crookedly as usual, unlocked. I opened the driver's side door and slid into the leather seat. The interior smelled faintly of sour milk and lavender air freshener. The gas tank was sitting on empty. It was a poetic reflection of how she treated me, drained and taken for granted. I pressed the ignition button. The engine hummed to life. I didn't turn on the headlights. I simply shifted into reverse, backed smoothly out of the driveway, and drove away into the night. No police were called. No dramatic confrontations occurred on the lawn. I drove it straight into my own garage, closed the heavy mechanical door, and went to sleep. The next morning brought a barrage of hysterical text messages from both Sarah and Tom demanding to know if the car had been stolen. I texted back a single sentence. I took my car back. Realizing they had zero legal recourse, they changed tactics. On Friday evening, Tom called and asked if we could meet for dinner at an upscale Italian restaurant near the Royal Mile, framing it as a chance to clear the air. I agreed. I arrived on time, ordered a simple house salad and sparkling water. Sarah and Tom arrived 10 minutes late, looking exhausted. They immediately ordered an expensive bottle of wine and premium pasta dishes, assuming the old rules still applied. "Look, Evelyn," Tom started, leaning forward to sound authoritative. "Sarah is stressed. Taking the car was way over the line. We are family, we need to support each other. You need to turn the nursery payments back on." "I don't need to do anything," I replied, folding my hands on the table. "You are two able-bodied adults with full-time corporate salaries. Pay your own way. We can't afford the nursery and a car payment," Sarah blurted out, her face flushing crimson. "We have a lifestyle to maintain." "Then change your lifestyle," I said. The waitress arrived, placing their massive plates of food on the table. I ate my small salad in silence while they complained about how unfair I was being. When I finished, I flagged the waitress down, handed her a 20-pound note and said, "This covers my salad and water. Keep the change. The rest is on their tab." I stood up, grabbed my designer bag, and walked out of the restaurant into the Edinburgh night, leaving them staring at a bill they had assumed I would pay. The silence lasted for 3 weeks. Without my financial cushion, Sarah and Tom's curated illusion of wealth crumbled. They had to trade Tom's luxury saloon for a modest used hatchback. Sarah started packing her own lunches. Vivienne completely ghosted them. On a rainy Sunday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Sarah standing on my porch. She wasn't angry. She looked defeated. The arrogant armor from Thanksgiving was entirely gone. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside. She walked into the living room and sat on the edge of the sofa, looking around my clean, peaceful home, the house she used to treat as a personal warehouse. "Vivienne refused to lend us money," Sarah admitted, staring at the floor. "She told us we were pathetic and, 'We are drowning, Mom, I'm so tired.'" She looked up, tears pooling in her eyes. "Can we just go back to normal?" "No, Sarah," I said gently but firmly. "We can never go back to that normal. I will not be your ATM, and I will not be your servant. I love you, but my job is no longer to make your life effortless." She nodded slowly. The hard edges of her entitlement had finally chipped away under the weight of real life. 6 months later, my life looks unrecognizable. I didn't cut my daughter out forever, but the terms of our relationship underwent a permanent restructuring. I see the twins twice a month. Sarah brings them to my house. I don't pay for their luxuries, I simply act as a grandmother. Sarah is finally learning how to budget, and their family has adapted to living within their actual means. As for me, the money I saved from cutting off their expenses fully funded a 3-week holiday to the Amalfi Coast with my son, David. We drank espresso on cliffside terraces and walked through ancient Italian towns. I wake up every morning in a quiet, peaceful home. My car is parked safely in my garage, and my time belongs entirely to myself. You cannot force people to respect you through arguments or tears. You earn respect by proving, through quiet and absolute action, that you are entirely capable of walking away and taking your ledger with you. Simple as that. Have you ever had to cut the financial cord on a family member who took you for granted? How did they react? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more.